Hi, in this video we are going to be showing you how to use right angle trigonometry using the method sohcahtoa to find an angle within a triangle this time. Our learning intention is to be able to correctly label right angle triangles, identify which formula we're going to use, and use trigonometry to calculate the required angle. You should already have been shown or watched the video on how to label a right angle triangle and use sohcahtoa to find a side. So just a wee reminder on how to label a right angle triangle. Just a reminder on how to label your triangle again. Across from the angle, step 1 is your opposite. Across from the right angle is your hypotenuse. And the one that's left next to the angle of 30 is the adjacent. So that's always the last one you do. Same again, across from the angle 15 is your opposite. Across from the right angle is your hypotenuse. And the one that's left next to the angle is adjacent. Okay. So everything here is exactly the same as the lesson on how to find a side, other than the last couple of steps of our working. Step 1 is still drawing and labelling our triangle. Step 2 is ticking off the sides we know. This time we're going to know 2 sides. And step 3 is choosing the correct formula with the 2 ticks, substituting in, and then we've got something new to do. So what I thought I'd show you is the difference in the last line. This time, before we're going to do any examples, it's worth showing you this. So you're going to come down to something that maybe looks like this once you've done all your working. Sine x equals 3/4. This is where there is something new. In the previous ones, we had a denominator on the fraction, and we said to counteract that divide, we did a multiply. So it's all about doing the opposite functions. The opposite of finding sine x is doing a thing called the inverse, okay? Now, depending on the calculator you are using, up in the top left corner, you will have one of these 3 buttons, okay? Most calculators will say shift if it's a Casio. Others might say inverse or second function. Now, our working will be, once we get down to this last step, it will be whatever button you've got, the sine button, and then we're going to do brackets, and then you put your fraction in as 3 divided by 4 or 2 divided by 7, whatever you've got in the fraction. Your teacher may show you how to do it using your fraction button, but I'm thinking maybe if you're doing it on your mobile phone, etc., you won't be able to do that. Now, when you type this shift sine button, it will come up on your calculator with this. It will say sine with a wee -1 next to it. That is just the notation for inverse, okay? And this is what the working will look like on your jotter. So we'll get sine x equals 3/4. We then write x equals the inverse sine. Now this is just a shorter way of me showing you what I've typed into the calculator, and then we will get our answer. Okay, so it's important we know where that button is on the right hand side and you're familiar with what your calculator uses. If you are using it on a mobile phone, it will be the inverse button, and it will be down the bottom left. And when you press the inverse button, your sine, cos and tan buttons on your phone will automatically change to sine or to cos or tan with a wee -1 above it, and the calculator should hopefully bring up the brackets automatically there for you. Okay, so it's just good that we are aware of this. So let's have a look at some examples then. So example 1, here is your triangle. So step 1 was draw and label your triangle. So remember, across from your angle is your opposite. Across from the right angle is your hype, and the one that's left next to the angle is adjacent. So we tick off the sides we know. So in this one, we're going to tick off hype, and we're going to tick off op. So hype and op. And we'll see that this is going to be the sine formula. Always write the formula out first. So it's sine of your angle equals OH, so O over H. Now this time we don't have a number to put in for the angle, so we're going to leave it as x. So sine of our angle equals, now it's very important you get these numbers the wrong way. If you do it the wrong way, for example 15 over 8, it will come up error in your calculator, and that means you need to go back and check your fraction. That's the case if it's sine or cos. Tan won't come up with an error, you'll just end up with the wrong answer. But yeah, make sure you get it the right way. So our opposite is 8 and our hypotenuse is 15. So our next line of work, and this is a new bit, is x equals sine with a -1, 8 divided by 15, and you could just leave that as a fraction there, or you could write it as 8 divided by 15. In the past, I know people to write it as 8 divided by 15 because it just helps remind them what they're doing in the calculator. And when you go do that, you should do shift sine, bracket 8 divided by 15. Your calculator might already bring the bracket up for you. If not, make sure you stick it in. Otherwise, your calculator's doing shift sine of 8 and then dividing it by 15. So that will give us 32.2 degrees. And it's up to you if you want to do that to nearest whole degree or to 1 decimal place. Okay. So let's do the same for our second example. Our labelling it step, across the angle is your opposite. Across the right angle is hypotenuse, and the one that's left is your adjacent. So we know this time our opposite and our adjacent. So opposite and adjacent. The TOA one has 2 ticks this time, so we're using the tan formula. So tan x equals O over A. We don't know our angle, so it stays as tan x. The degree sign isn't necessary. I think I forgot it in my last example. O over A will be 10 over 8. Then we're going to do the inverse of tan. And I'm just going to show you this one. You could leave it like that this time as 10 over 8 or 10 divided by 8. It is your choice, whatever you're more comfortable with. So on your calculator, you'll then do shift tan bracket, 10 divided by 8, and we get 51.3 degrees. To 1 decimal place. Okay. Final example is, you can probably guess what this one's going to be considering what I've already done. Across the angle is your opposite. Across the right angle is your hypotenuse, and the one that's left beside the angle is adjacent. So we are ticking off adjacent and height this time. So adjacent and height, it is the cos formula. So cos of your angle is A over H. So cos of your angle is, your A is 7, your H is 12, so 7 over 12. We will then write x is the inverse of this. And I've switched back to that one, again, optional. And this gives us 54.3 degrees. Okay. So you'll hear me in the video at this point here, I do alternate between saying the inverse of cos and shift cos. It's just out of habit because I'll say shift and it just reminds people of what that little step means going to the calculator. Okay. So now is the time you pause the video and try these 4 on your own. I warn you that I have done all my angles to the nearest whole number. Okay. So if you've got it to 1 decimal place and it doesn't match mine, it's because I've done it to nearest whole number on the answer. So what have we learned? We've reminded ourselves actually how to label right angle triangles correctly. We've learned how to identify the correct ratio again and how to use a scientific calculator to solve for an angle. And we've talked about that extra step as well to the working. Okay, good luck. Thank you.